Hey everyone! I am back with a scrapbook layout process video using the new Felicity Jane kit, which is Amanda, for the month of July. And yeah, so this layout, I had the idea of doing an interactive layout. I had these photos of my aunt's dog that I took when we went up to her house just to get out of the city for a little bit, some weekends ago actually. And the colors of the photos, they were like, I think about 3, so I used 2 of them. The colors of the photos matched some of the papers in the Amanda kit really well, and so I knew I wanted to do something with them. And so I decided to do a layout, and I wanted to use at least two photos. And so I kind of wanted to try an interactive layout. So one of my all-time favorite scrapbookers, who no longer scraps, which is very sad, was Tiffany, and she would always do these like really simple layouts, but they were always interactive. They always had flaps, they always had windows, like they were super cool, but like they looked really simple, even though I'm pretty sure they weren't that simple, since she had to like create these little windows and little flip outs, and they were always so interactive. And so I wanted to do that. I wanted to attempt something like that with these 2 photos that I had. And so you'll see me here trying to figure out how to do that. I kind of wanted to like have a photo on top and then flip out so another photo is hidden underneath it. And so what I did was I matted my photo on this beautiful floral paper from the Amanda kit, just to see more of those colors, because I actually left a white border around my photo. And I cut down another strip of paper that I wanted behind my photo, but I really struggled with a way to kind of make this main photo kind of hinge out so that it becomes a flap, so that when you lift it up, behind it basically was the second photo. And so I played around with that, and right now I'm just kind of building up my top cluster. So this is the photo that's going to be on, that you'll see first on the layout, and I wanted to use that ribbon. So this kit came with this forest green ribbon, like this dark green ribbon, and I'm just like, this would be really cool to use as the closure of the little flap that I make. But again, honestly, you'll see me, I kind of fiddle around a bit trying to figure out how to do like a flap. But right now I kind of wanted to get what the surface I guess cluster was going to look like the thing that you see on top, and I wanted to layer that. It's kind of like a plaid, but like with wonky lines, black and white plaid paper behind the photo that I just matted on that floral paper. And I think I wanted to do about 3 mats of 3 different papers to have different patterns peeking through. But I was, again, trying to figure out how to do that, but then also do a flip through, not a flip through, a little flap that flips back. So what I ended up doing is getting another piece of the textured cardstock. So I always use white textured cardstocks for my layout. So I got another piece that I had from a different project, and I'm basically cutting out a long strip of it that is the same size as my current photo that I have matted on that paper, on that floral paper. Because my thought process was that I can just tape my little cluster here, which is just my photo matted on the paper, onto one side of that paper, and then fold the rest of it in half to make sort of like a little flap, like a little, I guess a little flip up. And I was trying to figure out how to attach the string so that I didn't really have to poke holes and you don't really see it. And so what I end up doing is making a little card, and I'm going to glue my photo on the front side of the card. But before I do that, I took a bit of the ribbon that came in the kit, and I took a very small piece, and then I cut it in half because it's really thick. It's like a really thick ribbon, and so I didn't need it that thick. So I cut it in half, which was kind of a process because it did fray, and it did fray a lot, but it was okay. I ended up gluing one piece to one side of the white card that I folded, and I just used a little bit of fabric glue here to do that, and then I did the same on the back. And so the front part, I just taped my photo onto that front part, so you can't even see where the ribbon is on the page. It just kind of sticks out. And then I did glue the other piece of the ribbon on the back, and that's the piece that I'll glue down onto my layout, so you won't even see the back part of it. And so that is what I did to create my little flap. And now, since I wanted to layer up a bunch of things behind my photo, what I did was I just kind of tied the ribbon into a bow so that that was secure, and I layered up a doily behind my photograph, and I proceeded to add more layers behind that little flap photo. And so I kind of flip back and forth with this as I'm creating it, and so I switched to inside, like the inside of it, and this is the second photo that I wanted to use, but I kind of wanted to mat the photo on to some paper so you can see a little bit of pattern paper outlining it. So I looked through all the papers from the kit, and I chose this one that had just this very simple black and white stripe, and so I'm matting the photo onto that paper, and then I'm going to glue that entire photo mat and everything into the little booklet. And so I do end up, like towards the end when I start embellishing things, I do add a little bit of embellishment on top of the photo in this little kind of flip out little booklet here. And on the other side, that's white, I use a bit of grid paper, one of the Felicity Jane grid inserts for the note to self binders. I just kind of cut some of that paper down and double-sided taped it into that back flap, and I did my journaling there. And so you'll see here that I have my inside basically all done, so I tie the bow again, so that's going to be an element on the top of my layout, and I am again layering up some things behind my little photo cluster there. And so I think, what did I put the doily. I think the doily definitely ends up there, and I was kind of fiddling around a lot with this paper. First I wanted it to strip across, and then I figured just to keep it really simple, because Stephanie Bryan always keeps things really, really simple, and so I'm just like, you know what, I'll just do a bunch of layering with the papers behind my little photo cluster flip book thing. So I cut down that kind of sketchy plaid grid paper, and then I took that piece and cut out some of this. It's kind of like a pale pink polka dot paper, and I'm just layering up all of those pieces of paper behind my photo with, of course, the doily peeking through. And I do end up gluing everything down. It's just like I always like to place things first, see how I like it, and then glue everything down. This kit came with this amazing sheet of paper that has a bunch of tabs on it, and the die cut pack also had some tabs too. But I figured, since I kind of layered I kind of layered papers behind my photo, that I can attach a tab to each piece of paper, so that it kind of looks like a filing cabinet, or like a filing. And it's just for decoration, obviously, because this is not really a filing cabinet, but I thought that would be a really cool thing to like have, like just visually on the page. And so you see me here fiddling around. I use tabs of different colors, and I'm just fiddling around with how that looks, and I really enjoyed how that looks. And I do eventually stamp the date on one of those tabs as well. And so for this layout, I knew I wanted to use the word summer. It was very warm, very summery, very nice day when I went up to my aunt's house, And so I really didn't know what to title it other than to use up that summer, and so I decided to put the dog's name. His name is Loki, and so I just put Summer Loki there, and I used the die cut pieces that said spelled out summer, and then the puffy alpha stickers that came in the kit, which, funny enough, if you have the Zoe kit, it's basically the same alpha, I believe, as the Zoe kit. But yeah, so Summer Loki, and now I'm just fiddling around with the chipboard pieces and the die cuts, and I'm trying to find things to embellish. I play around with that tab. There's one tab that it's that same floral pattern, but I eventually end up using just the blue tab. And I had some of these stars left over. I actually did use some of these stars on my previous project, and I had these left over, and so I kind of wanted to use them. And so I basically pulled out anything that I wanted to use on the page. I pulled out the lemons, I pulled out the cactus. That cactus doesn't actually end up on the layout at all. And I pulled out one of the plain cardstock pieces because you'll see here, I took a quick picture of my layout and then I'm pulling everything aside. What you'll see here is that I cut down the white cardstock a little bit so that I can use that plain colored cardstock as a border, and I just go ahead and use the full page because I noticed that in my projects I don't really use the colored cardstocks very much, so I'm not sad about not keeping the inside. Normally I would kind of cut the inside of a paper out, but I'm not really fussed with this one. So I ended up using the blue because I thought the blue looked very nice and it matched the photograph really well. So there's a lot of this blue color in the photograph on my aunt's deck. It's actually painted blue, but the paint is starting to chip, and so it's like a nice kind of, you can see the wood grain through the deck, but it has some of that blue, and so kind of want the border to be blue. And what I did was I taped down my white paper and then I ran it through my sewing machine, so there's a nice just stitched border around, and that just acts, you know, it holds together papers too, but it's just nice little decoration. So now I am taping down everything. I am pretty satisfied with my little cluster, with the layout in general. So I think I do start gluing things down together, at least, not onto the layout just yet, because it was like an afterthought. I like doing mixed media before I start the layout so that it has time to dry, but this was definitely an afterthought after I put all my pieces down just to see everything again. I really liked how the stars looked really scattered on my layout, but there was just a lot of white space, to be quite honest, in like just all in the layout. It's just a lot of white space, and I didn't know what to do with the white space. It bothered me, and I knew I wanted to use the little the little itty bitty puffy stickers that come in the kit and sprinkle them about as well. But even so, it just looked really weird. So here I'm kind of measuring out everything. I'm terrible at placing things down so that it's centered, and I know me, I'm very picky about things being centered. Here's when I realized that there needed to be something on the page besides just what I have, and so I took out 2 inks. These are acrylic inks, and I settled on the gold one because the lemons are kind of like that, they're kind of like a goldenrod color, or like a, yeah, more like a goldenrod color, or like a mustard, like a muted mustard color. And the gold ink that I had, I thought matched really well. I probably should have used a different ink, maybe a gold Heidi Shine that I have, but I love the acrylic ink that I use, so decided to use that. But again, I'm measuring things out so that I know where to splatter, because I wanted my splatters to be in a specific place. I wanted some to kind of come up diagonally on the top, and then I wanted some to come down diagonally in a certain way on the bottom. And I find that the best way to get those splatters in the places that I want, and that they're not like completely random, is to mark up where the different elements are going to sit on my page so that I know where to kind of aim my splatters. So you see me here, after I measured, I'm actually putting the tabs on to the little cluster because I know I'm going to have tabs there, and I have to make sure that, okay, those tabs are going to be there too. Like, everything needs to sit on the layout, so I just kind of have an idea of where I want my splatters to go. So you see me here fussing and putting everything back on the page, and then taking everything off so that I can do my splatters. And so, of course, the splatters are not going to be perfect, but as long as I aim it in a way that I want my splatters to be, that is fine with me. They will, you know, go wherever they please because it's paint splatters, but as long as I have some sort of aim and direction, that is fine. So yeah, so I had to let it dry, but I don't think I let it fully dry because I'm really impatient and like to get things done when I'm in the zone. And so here I'm trying to fix up my little cluster before I glue it down because of course my paper is still wet. You see here how I go back and forth between the blue tab and the kind of floral print tab. I do settle on the blue because the main photo is outlined with that floral paper. But also my border is blue, and I wanted to repeat that. So you see here that I pulled off that little embellishment cluster that I did on the front, only because I realized when I opened up the flap, it didn't open all the way, and so I couldn't use that particular cluster of embellishments there. And so what I ended up doing is peeling them both apart. I did tear the die cut, but it ends up being okay because I decided to put it on the inside of the flap instead. And so I took another little die cut that says today on it just to layer it over the bit where I ripped, and then I just kind of tape in those lemons there so that they don't hang off the page too much. You know, they don't hang off the little photo too much because I didn't want to see it through like at the edge or anything. And that's fine. And I actually go back to my original chipboard piece that I wanted to use, which was this little kind of banner bunting flag thing that says Happy Camper on it, because he's definitely a happy camper. So for the inside, I wanted to add something there, so I used one of the epoxy hearts from the Lindsay kit. Just the pale pink one, just to have more of that pale pink there. And here you'll see that I put the banner there. It fits better when I open up the little flap. The flap actually opens up, and so I just kind of go with it. So you see me here wanting to put my little cluster down and the ink being really wet, and I get ink like everywhere. But I go ahead and put it down anyway. I'm just erasing my markings in pencil that I did on the page just to know roughly where my main cluster is going to go, and I do end up just putting it right there. And I kind of cover up most of the big globs of ink because I really only wanted a few splatters. I didn't want globs of paint, and so that worked really well. And so I believe the rest of this video is just me putting down all of the pieces that I had already laid out previously. So I put, you know, all my stars back, I put the summer, I do place down Loki, and then I just finish off the page with a little bit of those itty bitty puffy stickers, and I believe I use an assortment of stars and just the dots, just to sort of mimic the ink splatters and the stars that I use. And yeah, I think that's about it. This layout, once I figured out how to create the little flap and everything, everything just kind of fell into place. It was one of those layouts just kind of fell into place once I figured out how to add a little interactive flap to have two photos and my journaling hidden basically on the page. So yeah, that is pretty much it. I don't think I do anything else to my layout, so I will just leave you here to enjoy the rest of the process and to enjoy the photographs that come after. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!